Philadelphia's National Constitution Center honors this historic event with a day of educational and interactive programming. And this year, the center is launching a bold new phase in its effort to engage Americans in the founding principles of liberty, equality, and democracy. Joining us now, President and CEO of the National Constitution Center, Jeffrey Rosen, to tell us more about what will be happening. Fill us in.
It's so exciting on Constitution Day, and happy Constitution Day, to launch this amazing new Civic Toolkit for America 250. So we have an interactive Declaration of Independence with America's greatest historians writing about the big ideas of the Declaration and the Constitution. This is Danielle Allen on equality, Robbie George on liberty, the great Gordon Wood on government by consent. The Yale Law School scholar Akhil Amar has annotated the entire Declaration of Independence clause by clause, so you can click on those words, all men are created equal, and find that they came from thinkers like John Locke, and then were played out in the Massachusetts Constitution, written by John Adams, or the Pennsylvania Constitution, written by Benjamin Franklin. There are biographies of the signers, questions for teachers and for adult book groups. It's just this incredible feast of light and learning, which in these troubled times is so exciting to learn from. So I want everyone to go online, check out the interactive Declaration of Independence and the America 250 Civic Toolkit, and let the learning begin.
So, Jeffrey, you mentioned these troubled times, and I think that's something important to underscore here about this document, this living document, is the idea that, first of all, we have so many Americans don't learn their history and their civics like they used to. It's become, sadly, far less of a priority in our schools, it seems. So talk to us about why it's so important for people to understand the history of this, but also why it's so relevant now to this moment in U.S. history.
The Founding Fathers believed that unless we learned about history, then the Republic would fall. It would go the way of Greece and Rome. We would surrender to demagogues like Julius Caesar, because only by studying the principles of liberty and government, and this is really important, the habits of civil deliberation, will we actually listen to one another and not descend into violence. This question that you've been talking about this morning, in America, we rule by reason rather than passion, by persuasion rather than violence, is the centerpiece of the American idea. And it's a tough line to draw, as you've been talking about. We do not respond to our opponents by violence. We do it by deliberation. And we also don't censor hate speech, because in America, only speech that is intended to and likely to cause imminent violence can be censored. That's how much we value speech. It has to literally be on the brink of provoking violence before we'll censor it. There's a really inspiring fact that Americans have disagreed from the beginning about the meaning of those ideas we talked about, liberty, equality, and government by consent, but they've been committed to the process of civil dialogue and deliberation about it. I have a new book coming out about how the battle between Hamilton versus Jefferson ignited all of American history. It's called The Pursuit of Liberty, and it ends with the fact that after Hamilton dies in the duel, Jefferson places a bust of Hamilton across from his own in the central entrance hall of Monticello. You can still see it there today. He views Hamilton not as a hated enemy to be killed or destroyed, but a respected opponent to be engaged with. We've got to get back to that spirit of civil deliberation if we're going to keep the Republic.
Well, and of course, Hamilton and Jefferson made Washington's cabinet meetings dreadful. They couldn't stand each other when they worked together. Absolutely. You could say the same thing about Jefferson and Adams, and my God, few things are more inspiring than the love that they hated each other politically, but the love that they grew to share with each other, and those final words of both of them on the eve and on July 4th, 1826. I want to just talk for a minute. I want to get, since this is your job, to study the Constitution, to focus on the Constitution, to promote the Constitution, to live with the Constitution daily. I'd love to get your perspective about where we are, because often people come up to all of us, What's going to happen? Is this Germany in the 1930s? Is this Italy in the 1920s? And I always say the same thing. I say, we're going through some very, very difficult times. But those countries did not have 238 years and James Madison and Alexander Hamilton on their side. And I think perfect evidence of that is an op-ed or an editorial we read this morning from the Wall Street Journal, comparing us to one of our closest allies, Britain. In Britain, if a government doesn't like what a comedy writer says, they can pass a law and arrest them. In America, we had a president and an attorney general say things that went against the First Amendment, and immediately both the left and the right might as well have broken out in like a song from Hamilton. I mean, everybody was on the same stage together going, no, we're Americans. You don't do that here. So put all of this, put this great time of challenge together with this great document and tell us where you think we are.
You put it so well when you note the love that Adams and Jefferson had for each other. Think of that. The election of 1800, the country could have descended into civil war. There was violence imminent in the streets, and we were just as polarized then as we are now. What are their last words to each other before they die on July 4th, 1826? Adams says, "I know very little except that I love you with all my heart and soul." What an extraordinary affirmation of the idea that these political enemies are civic friends. And you're so right that what distinguishes America from Britain and from every other democracy in the world is that we're committed to we the people ruling, and truth can only be discovered through the process of reasoned deliberation. In Europe and in Britain, the king decided what was true by authority. In America, the people rule, and by listening to each other and through the marketplace of ideas and through our commitment to free speech, truth slowly emerges. These are polarized times, but we have been through very dark times before and after the Civil War, throughout the unrest of the post-Reconstruction era, the Civil Rights era. Violence has been imminent. And yet we are united by our devotion to these ideals. And it's very significant, as you said, that the Wall Street Journal expresses the fact that liberal as well as conservative justices and citizens are committed to this shining principle of rule by reason, and that in America we only suppress speech if it's intended to and likely to cause imminent violence. That is something to celebrate on Constitution Day, and it's going to keep us together in the very challenging times ahead.
President and CEO of the National Constitution Center, Jeffrey Rosen, thank you so much. His new book, The Pursuit of Liberty, How Hamilton and Jefferson Ignited the Lasting Battle Over Power in America, will be available.